All right, how's everyone doing here tonight? You've got just John, as Jim is now in wedding mode. Padres fall tonight, game one of a three-game series to the Cincinnati Reds. We'll get into it over the course of the next hour. So here for you for the next hour. Would love to hear from you. We'll get to the comments in the chat. Appreciate the super chats as always. If you want to make sure I see your comment here tonight, click that $sign. Below the chat box, please subscribe. We have year-on content for Padres fans. We do. Would love to get to 6,300 subscribers with your help. So if you are here live or on replay tonight, I realize it's kind of a disappointing game, not a great start to the series in Cincinnati. But if you are here, if you're consuming this in any form or fashion, we do appreciate you subscribing. Smash the like button if you wouldn't mind. You can follow me on X at John Schaefer. And again, appreciate the super chats. That's how I'll see your comments here tonight. Just click that $sign below the chat box. And if you want to become a member, you can click the join button down below as well. So again, Jim has transitioned to wedding mode, which means John has transitioned to hosting the wrap-up show. Actually, I already have the wrong format up, don't I? Jim's going to kill me. Hold on real quick. There we go. I figured it out. So I'll be hosting the wrap-up show solo for the next couple of nights. In addition to that, you can catch me on the radio, John and Jim. Solo version of John and Jim for the next couple of nights as well. I do think there's a good amount to react to here today, and I'm sure a lot of people that are going to be here, whether it's live or on replay, probably missed a lot of this game because the game, had a first pitch time, I think, of 3:40 in the afternoon. It was a pretty quickly played game as well. So I'll just go on an initial diatribe, and then we can kind of get into it. But this is one of those games where I don't think it's worthy of an overreaction, but I also don't think it's worthy of discounting either. And the reason I would say that I don't overreact to a game like this is, let me explain. And these would typically be seen as excuses. And you know me, I'm not really an excuse maker when it comes to the Padres. The truth is this. Maybe you missed it. I worked in minor league baseball for 15 years. These are weird travel days. You play two true games, a split doubleheader on a getaway day, which is almost unheard of now in Major League Baseball. So you play a split doubleheader on a getaway day, travel, and then play the next day. Is 3 games in 30 hours or whatever it is. Now, this is their job. They're, paid to perform. And we're not talking about lifting heavy machinery, right? I mean, they're not digging ditches. So, their opponents were capable of winning the last couple of games. But I do think you have to consider some of the circumstances that go into this game. So there's that. And I'm not discounting it. That's the last thing in the world I'm going to do. And JD Gotcha, thank you for the first super of the night. I'll get to it in a moment. So I'm not going to discount it. But there's more takeaways to me than just kind of the circumstances that played out with them, getting shut out tonight in game one against Cincinnati. I've got real concerns that don't have to do with playing 3 games in 30 hours. My primary concerns are, is Joe Musgrove going to be Joe Musgrove? And I don't know if we can answer that based on one start here tonight. And my other concern is this team cannot hit left-handed pitching. I mean, this team has regressed mightily from where they were a year ago somehow against left-handed pitching. And to get where you want them to go, we keep saying, we simplify it to, well, Toddy, Bogey, Manny need to be the players they're capable of being. Sure. But beyond that, guys have to be able to hit left-handed pitching, and right-handed hitters have to be able to hit left-handed pitching because you've got your own issues with some of your left-handed batters that have struggled to hit left-handed pitching. That's not overly surprising. That'll happen across Major League Baseball. But when your right-handed hitters are not able to hit left-handed pitching, you got problems. And listen, Cincinnati threw a very good, capable, young starter, Andrew Abbott, today. I think he's been very good. He's had a couple of good starts against the Padres now in his career. 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs. Padres have gone 19 innings without scoring. So I think Andrew Abbott's good. I thought yesterday, obviously, Chris Sale's very good. We've seen that before, but it's beyond Sale. I mean, we can't excuse it all. Sale's good. He's had a good year. Abbott is good. He's got a 2.68, including tonight's start against the Padres. But Fernando Tatis Jr. has fallen off a cliff against left-handed pitching. Why? His career numbers are incomparable to what he's done this year. Smaller sample size, understood. Manny Machado has completely fallen off a cliff against left-handed pitching, right? I know Xander Bogaerts didn't play today. He has not hit left-handed pitching. He just hasn't hit in general. So that's my bigger concern. It's not, oh, you lose a game to Cincinnati. How can you lose a game to Cincinnati? Just like, how can you get swept by the Colorado Rockies? Fair. But that's more, in the moment, in the now. But sometimes you got to see the forest through the trees. I've been saying that a ton recently. Those that listen to John and Jim or watch the wrap-up show have heard me say that. the losing a game over 162, whether the team is a good team or a bad team, is relatively inconsequential. But it goes beyond that because you're going to face left-handed pitching a lot, obviously, not as much as right-handed pitching. But I think, again, to kind of get where you want to go, you can't be the worst hitting team in baseball against left-handed pitching. And by the way, they're not, but they're the third worst team against left-handed pitching in baseball. Third worst. And their batting average is just over 200 against left-handed pitching as a team. And you got players that are expected to produce hitting well under 200 against left-handed pitching this year. So that's really my primary concern. My secondary concern, and JD Gotcha, thank you again for the super chat. I'll get to all the supers, guys. So make your way in. If you're here on replay, thank you for the super thanks, by the way. As well, my secondary concern, and it's not really based on today, although truthfully it kind of is based on today, is Joe Musgrove. He goes 3 innings. Now, he was only going to throw 65 or 70 pitches or whatever it was. I understand that he hasn't pitched in 20, 21 days. It's been a completely up and down year, more down than up. And his velocity's been down. He's coming off a shoulder capsule injury at the end of last year. Now he's got this elbow inflammation. I mean, you're not forcing the issue, make no mistake. But the velocity remains down. I don't think it was further down today than it was, 4 weeks ago with Musgrove, but his velocity's down. I mean, I'm looking at this telecast. He's throwing 91. And now his breaking pitches he was relying on heavily because I don't think he's getting swings and misses with a fastball that's being thrown at 91, 92 miles per hour. And he just kind of labored, which again isn't the end all be all in one start. You can have a quote unquote rougher outing. He'll have 2 unearned runs. I mean, at the end of the day, it was 3 innings. It was 2 runs. It was a little sloppy. Not the most hard hit balls, but a walk here, a single there. Absolutely could have gotten out of the outing without allowing a run. There's no question about it. There was a drop ball at the plate by Luis Campusano. There was a failed errant pickoff attempt from Musgrove. It was a sloppy inning. I mean, Jake Cronenworth missed a ball at first that I think he's fully capable of making that play. It very easily could still be scoreless in like the 25th inning right now. The Padres bullpen was really good, really good. I don't even know if the Padres bullpen allowed a hit. They didn't. I mean, the Padres bullpen went 5 hitless innings today. Morojo and Burrito, Matsui and Stephen Kolek, I think, got an out. Yeah, went a third of an inning. So, it's not that, you can't summarize the entire season in one outing from Joe Musgrove. It's just, you're left kind of wanting more, and you're left. It's not even that you're wanting more. You're left wondering, is he going to be the pitcher you hope he is going to be? And I can't answer it. I just can't. I don't think this will be, what we're going to see all year. Just 3 inning performances and 66 pitches. That's not the case. I mean, he'll be back built up. I think Mike Schultz said postgame he can throw 80-something pitches probably his next time out against the Yankees. But you're facing this completely depleted Reds lineup, a team that's 3-15 in their last 18 games coming in, a team that lost Jake Fraley after he was hit by a pitch in the first or second inning. Later, Jonathan India came up limp when he slid into home plate and was safe when Campusano couldn't hold on to the tag. I mean, this team is the walking wounded. I know John Sadak very well as the TV voice of the Cincinnati Reds. And we talk about this team. We talked to him on the radio a couple of weeks ago when Cincinnati was here, and he told me at the time when they were playing, good baseball, he said, the issue is the injuries and how quickly do they add up and to what impact does it have on the way the team performs. And they have just had injury after injury after injury to the point where their manager, David Bell, was like throwing things in the dugout when Jake Fraley left the game because he was hit by a pitch here tonight. So they haven't overcome the injuries. They've been one of the worst teams in baseball since they were in San Diego. They've been one of, if not the worst team in baseball. They were 3-15 over an 18-game stretch coming into this game. So 3-15 over an 18-game stretch. So they had not been playing well. And I don't think they played particularly well today. They had 3 hits in the game. And they benefited from errors. And just not sound defensive play, which is who the Padres pride themselves on being under Mike Schilt. So you add that all up, and it wasn't a good game. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to sit here and defend. I will give you some reasons. I can give you an explanation or two. Offensively, the left-handed starting pitching thing has been a crux. It's been a real problem is what it is. So that's real. Luis Ariz, again, he has to start against left-handed pitching. He did have 2 hits. Tatis has hit nothing against left-handed pitching, did have a hit in this game. Profar remains Profar, had a hit. I hated the 9th inning. I hated the 8th and 9th inning. You got guys with high whips, high ERAs, and the Padres didn't capitalize. They had 1 runner at second base in this game. I mean, 1 runner at second base. Now, again, it doesn't throw away everything they did in Atlanta. 3-1 series in Atlanta is a 3-1 series, and a 3-2 road trip is a 3-2 road trip. It's not bad, and they may win the series. And if they do, it's a 5-2 trip. And how could you discount anything that happens on a 5-2 trip? But I mean, you look at this game in a vacuum, and this game specifically. I think the first 4 pitches that Profar saw was at Profar, in the 9th inning. None of them were within 2 feet of the strike zone. None of them. And then he works back to strike out Manny Machado, who was 0 for 4 tonight after having hit in 3 consecutive games and having that big hit yesterday in game 1. And then Cronenworth hits a ground ball double play. Taylor made, easy play, game ends. So they didn't capitalize. I mean, they had opportunities. The Padres, have had some big come from behind wins. I think they've had 3 comebacks of 4 or more runs this year, which is the most in baseball. And I was kind of waiting on them. Like, this team isn't good enough. They'll get to Abbott eventually. They'll get to this bullpen eventually. And they didn't. So, I'm not tipping my cap to Cincinnati. That's the last thing I'm going to do. And, there's factors, there's excuses. I'm not going to make them, but I will try to kind of walk you through what goes into. It's a getaway day. Very rare when you have rain that happened days earlier. You didn't play 2 before a getaway day. You play 2 on a getaway day. You travel. And then you play, and it's a lot. It's 3 games in 30 plus hours, but they need to play better than this. They're paid to perform, and they didn't perform here tonight. All right, let's get to some of the supers, guys. As you make your way in, again, afternoon game, no Jim. I don't think people are exactly thrilled with a 2-0 shutout loss. If you wouldn't mind letting Padres fans know, we are live right now. The more the merrier. Would love to get some people here in the chat. So we're going to be hanging out. I'm going to be hanging out for the next hour. So if you wouldn't mind letting people know, or if you're here on replay, I appreciate you hanging out as well. So subscribe, smash the like button. I'll get to every super chat. You can click the $ below the chat box. Do appreciate your support of the channel on this Tuesday night. JD Gotcha says, shout out Reds left fielder. Yeah, it was Hurtubise, who was 0 for 3 with a walk. Only the second West Point graduate to ever reach the major leagues. Major league talent can be found anywhere. I love that. I love that tidbit. And that's spot on and accurate and factual. There's no question about that. It's amazing where some of these players come from. It's such an international game, obviously. But even to see that, like, you don't typically think, the academies or like the Patriot League or Northeast when it comes to Major League Baseball. But that's really cool. That is a little cool note there from JD Gotcha. Thank you. And he says he led the nation in steals in 2018, rolling second team All-American in 2019, military service deferred as long as he has a professional contract. The more you know, JD Gotcha. I did not realize that. The more you know. Again, I mean, think about even current members of the Padres and like where they come from. I mean, Jake Cronenworth was a bit of a throw-in a deal with Tampa Bay. He was a 2-way player at the time. He was he's a relief pitcher during his stint with Tampa and AAA Durham, and to become as dependable as he's been and to get an $80 million contract. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing how some of this stuff develops and transpires. So thank you, JD Gotcho. I appreciate that. I'm going to tell you in a moment about our title sponsor, Mark Nimitz, here on the wrap-up show. But again, I mean, that's my 30,000 foot view, which goes well beyond this game. And I watched this entire game. We were in the studio. I mean, I was on the air from 3 to 6. The game ended truly at 6 p.m. This was a 2-hour and 18-minute game because the Padres didn't do anything, nor did the Reds after that second inning. But my 30,000 foot view is, why are the Padres right-handed hitters that are expected to hit left-handed pitching? I mean, right-handed hitters should feast to some extent on left-handed pitching in the big leagues. And if you look at career numbers, like Darnay Tripp, NBC7 tweeted some stuff out earlier today, and I'm going to find it right now. It's almost inexplicable. And you may say, well, it's a small sample size, but is it? I mean, you're 51 games in. Of course, a lot of those games you're not facing left-handed pitching. But like, listen to this. This is a team that I think last year, I looked this up recently, hit 271 against left-handed pitching. Last year, I mean, this team was good against left-handed pitching last year, and it wasn't a good team. This year, listen to these numbers of right-handed hitters. Ha-Seong Kim is hitting a .191 with a 357 slug, which isn't horrific. Xander Bogaerts is hitting a .96 with a 304 slug. That is horrific. Manny Machado against left-handed pitching is hitting 158. This is coming into today, by the way. So some of these numbers have gone up a tick, or some of these numbers have gone down a tick. Machado was hitting 158 with a 342 slug against left-handed pitching. And then there's Fernando Tatis Jr., who takes the cake, unfortunately, here with his 140 batting average against left-handed pitching. Now, he did have a hit against the starter Abbott. I think he was 1 for 3 against Abbott. So that probably actually goes up 10, 15 points today. So let's just say 150. He's at 150. His slug is 209 coming in. So he has essentially only hit singles against left-handed pitching this year. He's done nothing. I think he had 1 extra base hit against a left-handed pitcher this year. Think about that. I mean, these are black holes. Now, and that doesn't even include your left-handed hitters. Jake Cronenworth has not hit left-handed pitching. And I have no complaints about him playing every single day, but he has not hit left-handed pitching. 170 with a 192 slug, all singles for Jake Cronenworth against left-handed pitching. So, like, you add this all up, and how do you get out of that? Arise is going to have to hit left-handed pitching, and he has, and he's fully capable. In his career, he's hit I think he's like a 280 hitter against left-handed pitching, which is damn good in today's baseball, lefty on lefty with no platoon advantage. I mean, that's about as good as it's going to get, lefty on lefty. I'm sure there's examples of guys that are better, but not a ton of examples of guys that are better that bat from the left side. So I think that helps. And again, he's only been here for what, 10 days or 2 weeks. So maybe you get some benefit against left-handed pitching moving forward with Arise. And Merrill's going to have to play. I mean, Merrill's going to have to play and perform against left-handed pitching. But, it's less on Crony and Merrill and more on Toddy, Bogey, Manny, and even Hassan Kim to some extent, I would say, against left-handed pitching. Like, someone's going to have to hit, and someone's going to have to hit for power, or you got a problem on your hands. And I don't see a real quick fix other than fix it. Like Manny, Bogey, Toddy, specifically against left-handed pitching. I mean, the truth is, with those numbers being so horrific against lefties, that if you only looked at, Manny, Toddy, Bogey against right-handed pitching, the numbers actually wouldn't look, they wouldn't look horrific because they've been so bad against lefties that they're doing some of their work, if not all of their work, against right-handed pitching. So, again, that's, I think, a big storyline coming out of this thing. He kind of just smacks you in the face back-to-back, games against left-handed stars, and you do absolutely nothing. Back-to-back shutouts. This offense has been, pretty good at times. I mean, truthfully, they have been pretty good at times, but, including like Sunday night, 9 runs on Sunday Night Baseball. So this offense has been pretty good. But let me look it up real quick. Like, where is this offense as we sit now? Because I think you could argue they probably overperformed initially, and maybe they'll come back to earth. And then you're thinking, well, maybe the pitching will pick them up. And we've seen that happen, obviously, at times during the season as well. But let's see here. I'm going to look at total team stats, and let's look at a couple of indicators, none better than OPS. They're 10th in OPS in baseball. They're 10th in OPS. They've dipped a little bit. They've probably been as high as 5th or 6th within the last couple of weeks. And they're 10th currently. And I think that's good, truthfully. They need to stay in the top half is what they need to do. And I think they have the lineup to do it. They just need to perform. I mean, they clearly have the lineup to do it. They just need to perform. All right, we'll get back to the commentary in the chat in a moment. Guys, if you're here, subscribe. If you're here, thank you for the super chats. You can click that $ below the chat box. I do need to remind you about our title sponsor here on the Wrap-Up Show. We can't do it without Mark. I've been texting with Mark actually throughout the course of the afternoon and the evening. Just a huge supporter of the channel, as you guys know, since day one. If you have an insurance need, how many times have I told you this? He's a great insurance agent. I mean, I have so many policies with Mark. Earthquake, I think, was the first, and then homeowners, and I've added a life insurance policy, with a wife and a child. And he's just an amazing insurance agent. I mean, anytime you have any need, he gets back to you immediately. You can call him, you can text him, you can email him. He'll get back to you immediately. And he's a lifelong Padres fan, and he's a native San Diegan, and he'll give you free quotes, and he'll save you so much money just by switching your insurance. So if you have an insurance need, maybe you're looking for information on a new policy, maybe you have a renewal, but before you renew, call Mark. He's going to save you time and money. If you ever have to file a claim, I had to do it in 2022. I mean, we were out of our house for 2 weeks. Mark saved us. I mean, Mark could tell you literally how much he saved us. It could have been like $10,000. I mean, it was some ridiculous amount of money. It might have been more than that. It was a ridiculous amount of money. So if you've got an insurance need, if you support this channel, please, the next time you have a need, get in contact with Mark. He is there for you. Whenever it is, he's there for you. Text, call, email. Mark Nimitz, click that link in the description down below. He's the title sponsor here of the Wrap-Up Show. All right, John Schaefer with you. Again, Jim has the not just the night off, he's got the rest of the week off, in fact, because he's getting married. Jim's getting married. I'm officiating. I think some of you are aware of that as well, but I'll be officiating the wedding on Saturday. Let's see. Jim has just texted me. Yeah, retweet. Hold on. Okay, let's see here. So, okay, the commentary and some of the chat. Hold on, Jim is texting me. Honestly, working with Jim is taking years off my life. Even though I will give Jim credit because when I was in Philly visiting, um, when I was in Philadelphia visiting, why are you? If you are sitting here watching Jim, then why don't you join? Okay. First of all, I was in Philly and I was like 3 hours ahead, and he would have a show. I'd like retweet it. I'd post about it. When Jim doesn't do a show, he just does. He's like, whatever. Who cares? No, I didn't do it wrong. He keeps reverting back. Oh, there. I'm back. Um, like if Jim takes the day off, he's like, forget about it. I don't care. It's all good. When I take a day off, I do everything I can to support. But he kind of did because he does the graphics for it. So anyway, stop bothering me, Jim. Seriously, I'll see you on Saturday at the wedding. I may or may not officiate. If you don't retweet these videos, Jim, for the next couple of days, then I'm not officiating on Saturday. There's a threat. Steve, thank you, man. He says everyone wanted a 500 wildcard team. Well, here it is. I don't know if they want a 500 wildcard team. I think they wanted maybe a wildcard team. I mean, the Padres are in fine positioning. Like from a standing perspective, like from a standings perspective, they're absolutely fine. There's no issues in the world. There's no panic setting in. There's nothing that they have to do this series against Cincinnati. This whole like laughable. We joked about it today on John Jim. Is it a must-win series? Of course it's not. I mean, you'd like to play well against not just good teams but bad teams too. This is a really weird team where they're like 4 games over against teams that are over 500 and maybe 5 games. Jim, you are so annoying, man. Maybe 5 games under 500 against teams that are below 500. But they're 25 and 26. If the season ended today, I mean, this is how bad the National League is. I mean, it is just not good. And I don't know if someone will get hot at some point. Probably. Someone among this group will probably get hot. But if the season ended today, and it doesn't, thankfully, Padres are in by a game under 500. Now you've then have like 6 teams within like 2 games of each other, and that's why you can't bank on what Steve is saying here with the super chat. Like everyone wanted a 500 wildcard team, everyone wanted a wildcard team, and you can't bank on this team going 500 and making the postseason. In fact, I think it's extremely unlikely. I think it's probably possible, but it's extremely unlikely because Arizona, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, the Nationals, even the Mets. Shoot, the Reds are 3.5 games behind the Padres. It's not like their season is over, even though they've been horrific. Their season basically is over. I'd eliminate the Reds, Marlins, and the Rockies from the conversation. At some point, we'll eliminate the Mets probably from the conversation. See about Washington. But still, the point is like San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Arizona. Are you guaranteeing that none of those teams get hot and, have a 7-game winning streak at some point? Maybe. I mean, it's possible. I think Arizona's probably built, maybe as they get healthier, to play better baseball. San Francisco's been pretty disappointing. But again, it's hovered right around where the Padres are. They're 1 game behind the Padres. Pittsburgh's 1 game behind. So, like, again, I don't think the National League's good. I really don't. And when you compare it to the American League, for example, right now, like the American League, the last wild card position is 2 games over 500. And in the National League, the last wild card position is 1 game under. You multiply that out over 3, because we haven't even played a third of the season. And all of a sudden, the American League, wild card teams are 6, 8 games over 500. And you multiply it out in the National League, you're like, wait, 81-81 is going to get in, or 82-80, or 80. I don't. That still would surprise me. I mean, what's going to happen. Teams will be hovering around the postseason. They'll bolster or attempt to at the trade deadline, and likely a team will get hot. So that's not to say it's not going to be San Diego. I think it absolutely could be San Diego, to the point that I talked about it today on John and Jim, something that Kevin Acee wrote in his newsletter. And this is what he wrote. Thank you, Jim, for the retweet. Kevin Acee in his newsletter. I mean, I find this encouraging. I think the trends are good. I do. I think the trends are good, even though the last 2 games have not been good. And that's why I'm not panicking, because I still think the trends are good. So when I hear something like this coming into the day, this is before today, before now a 19 consecutive scoreless inning streak for this offense, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but whatever. So coming into today, the Padres have won 5 of 6 series. Good. The Padres have come back from a deficit of 4 or more runs 3 times. Most in baseball. They have scored 4 or more runs in an inning 18 times. What? I mean, they're pacing to do that 55 times or more, 56 57 times. I mean, are you kidding? I don't even know if they did 18 times last year, truthfully. 4 or more runs. Like, let me say that again. In an inning, 18 times, most in baseball. What? And then they've been, this is funny how Kevin wrote this. I mean, writing it this way is interesting, but I think it does prove a larger point. He says their runners on first and or second base advance 2 bases on singles more than any other team. Translation, they go first and third, and they score on singles with runners at second base more than anyone else. They're aggressive. So those indicators are good. You couple it with the way Yu Darvish is pitching and Dylan Cease, and I feel good about this team. Now, and then you have the last 2 games, and you're like, well, but they won 3 games against Atlanta as well. So I still think the indicators are good indicators, but I also think 25 and 26 is 25 and 26. So I can't get a full read. I'm way more optimistic on this team than I was on the team a year ago. I'm way more optimistic on this team than I was a year ago. But at the end of the day, they're 25 and 26. And in 3 games, which is through the Cincinnati series and the first game against the Yankees on Friday night, that's 1/3 of their season. So let's fast forward and say they're 27 and 27, 2-1 in their next 3 games. Might happen, might not, whatever. They're pacing for a 500 season, at 27 and 27. Could be a game better than that. Could be a game worse than that. But, I don't think that's a small sample size. And it's not that there's 27 and 27 teams that end up winning 89 games. And there's 27 and 27 teams that end up winning 74 games. And they very well could be somewhere in between. But, a third of the season is enough time to really get a read. And some of the things that I, am reading is there's some encouraging trends of this team. And then there's also the fact that they can't hit left-handed pitching. And I'm worried about Joe Musgrove as well. Steve, thank you. He says, can we slip some juice in Nando's milk? I mean, here's the thing with Fernando. And thank you, Steve. Appreciate you, man. That this shouldn't come as a surprise that when you've been suspended for performance enhancing, when you've been suspended for PEDs, that this is going to be a part of the story. And I don't think it's a big story with Padres fans. I really don't. I don't think it's going to be a big story with Padres fans, but it's going to be a story around baseball. Like, I think he was given 2023, right? Like 2023, coming off multiple surgeries, not having played in the big leagues for like 18 months. Like, was it really fair to expect him to be a 40 home run hitter and a 900 OPS guy, switching positions? No, it wasn't. And it was a roller coaster. I thought defensively he couldn't have been really much better. He was relatively healthy. In fact, he basically played every day after returning from the suspension, but he ran out of steam in September. He never really took over at any point. There were moments, but it was a sub 800 OPS for a guy that was like a 950 OPS player to that point in his career. And you say, okay, it's 2023, the surgeries, the time off, completely understandable. We may not like it, but it was understandable. Well, what are we supposed to say in 2024? And here's the thing. I can excuse it. I can come up with reasons. I can try to explain it away. That's not what the rest of baseball is going to say. It's not what people that cover the sport are going to say. The longer this continues, the more direct correlations are going to be drawn to either his health because of the injuries that he sustained and the surgeries that he underwent, or the suspension. And that's just plain as day. That's just plain old truth. I mean, people are going to tie the two together. And honestly, they're going to tie the two together even if he does hit. If all of a sudden Tatis in the second half has a 2021 first half and it's 28 home runs, people say like it's, he's juicing. That's what they're going to say. But he can't worry about that. I don't think the periphery, the noise has gotten to Fernando Tatis Jr. I just think he hasn't produced. I mean, there have been 2 players in his career. There's the player before the injuries, and there's the player after the injuries. And that's just, I'd have to total it all up, but it's true. He was a dynamic, exceptional, top flight, top 5 position player in baseball at one point in his career. He is not that player today. Now, he's had a much better season than Xander Bogaerts and Manny Machado, but you're expecting him to carry the load. You're expecting him to be all-star caliber, if not MVP caliber. You're expecting him to be special. And right now, he's not that player. He's been good at times, and defensively, he's been great at times, but he is not the offensive threat that he has to be, and he cannot. I mean, what was it? Did Darnay tweet this? His career numbers against left-handed pitching are good, yet he's fallen off a cliff this year. What's the reason? I mean, how do we explain that away? Because his career numbers, where do I find this? I think he was hitting 290 in his career against, yeah, here we go. Tarnay, thank you for producing this show. For his career, 290. I don't know if this includes this year or not. 290 with a 535 slug. This year, 140 with a 209 slug. Like, that's mind blowing what I just said. A 290 career hitter against left-handed pitching with a 535 slug has been silenced down to 140 with a 209. I mean, that's not even the same stratosphere. Like, his numbers against left-handed pitching are pitcher numbers hitting against pitchers back when the National League had pitchers hit. That's what it is, because pitchers can hit 140. I mean, that's how crazy it is. I mean, I hate to put it that bluntly, but that's how bad he has been. Again, it's not a season-long sample. He's got, I don't know what it is, 45, 46, 47 ABs, so more plate appearances, 50-plus plate appearances maybe, against left-handed pitching, which isn't, a treasure trove. It's not a fortune, but it's enough for me to be critical. I promise you that. All right, guys, we're going to get back to the chat in a moment. I do want to thank our brand new partner here on the Wrap-Up Show. They've been with us for the last couple of weeks, local San Diego startup with offices right outside Petco Park, Finley. Here's the quickest way to explain Finley. They allow fans to own a piece of the potential upside of real athletes. San Diego startup. These guys are huge Padres fans, San Diego through and through. One of their advisors is Mark Grant, of course, on Padres broadcast, right? Well, their first athlete is a Texas Rangers top prospect. His name is Xander Vargas. And you can invest in Vargas, okay? Kind of like, you remember this, speaking of Tatis, I've talked about this a lot. Tatis, before he made the big leagues, did a deal with Big League Advance that basically guaranteed him income before he reached the big leagues for a portion of his future big league earnings. Well, he went on to sign a $340 million deal. So that was a pretty good deal for Big League Advance. So it's not to say Xander Vargas is going to be Fernando Tatis Jr., but if you want to invest in his potential and his future, you can do so by clicking the link in the description down below. You can see the website on the screen right now. It's one of the top 10 or 11 prospects in the Rangers organization, and it's a great way to support a rising prospect and get paid a piece of his future major league earnings potentially. He signed for very little money. And the capital that Finley is raising is going to allow him to play baseball year-round. That includes, obviously, the offseason as well. And then when you scroll down here on their website, you can see this little scroll bar. And you can invest as little as $96. And then your potential return is outlined on the website. But $96 can potentially return hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And then, of course, more money can potentially return more money as well. So if you're looking for more information, really cool company doing cool things. They've got their first athlete. You can literally invest in an athlete's potential with Finley. Click that link in the description down below. All right, back with you here on the Wrap-Up Show. John Schaefer. And again, if you're here, please subscribe. We have year-round content for Padres fans. Smash the like button for me if you wouldn't mind. You can follow me on X at John Schaefer. That is JONSCHAEFFER. Padres again lose today, earlier this afternoon, to the Reds 2-0. They will play again tomorrow. Let's see. The pitching matchup tomorrow is. What's the pitching matchup tomorrow? Stand by. Please hold. Michael King, Nick Martinez. How about that? Juicy matchup, right? Guys that were with different organizations last year. I mean, Martinez, obviously, with the Padres. He's been all right in Cincinnati. He's been a bit of a yo-yo guy. They've used him as a starter. They've used him as a reliever. He's 1-2 with a 4.23 ERA. Michael King, I mean, he's had ups and downs. He's been as good as any Padres pitcher at times. He's also had some really bad outings, and he's still maybe leading Major League Baseball in home runs allowed. He's 3-4 overall with a 4.31 ERA. See if they can bounce back. I mean, these last two games have been disappointing. I wasn't really concerned. If I'm being honest, I wasn't really concerned with yesterday. Losing to Chris Sale, still winning the series, with that impressive come-from-behind win. I thought it was all good. Truthfully, coming out of yesterday, winning 3 out of 4 in Atlanta, you can't ask for more than that. Atlanta's a really good team, and they're even better as a home team. So I didn't think you could ask for more than that. But today, I mean, is it predictable? People would tell you, you look at social media, oh, it's predictable, right? This is the Padres, right? They win a series against the LA Dodgers, they get swept by the Colorado Rockies. They win a series against the Atlanta Braves, they get, they lose a series to Cincinnati. And who knows if that happens or not? I mean, I think a lot hinges on what happens the next 2 days is what I would say, because if you win the next 2 days, this is all I was asking of them. I didn't ask for them to go into Cincinnati and sweep. And you might be saying, what are you talking about? The Reds are 3-15 in their last 18 games. Of course we should be sweeping them. But baseball's not that simplistic. You win a series, especially on the road, you've done more than your job. So that's their job right now. Win the next 2 days. Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, and then Thursday morning. That's their job. Find a way to bounce back. I don't think it's the easiest thing in the world because, in this series, you're going to have King and Waldron now, right? You're not throwing Cease and Darvish. So, doors open a little bit, I would say, for the Reds to maybe win this series. They need just one of the last two, and they're playing at home. They've really fallen on hard times. It's Ellie De La Cruz. It's a pitching staff that's underperformed. It's a bullpen that has been ineffective. It's high leverage relievers that have high whips and high ERAs. So, we need to see this offense tomorrow is what we need to see. And hopefully it shows up because they haven't scored now in 19 consecutive innings. And again, we've backed the offense. Like we said earlier, I think the offense has been, at times a bright spot and a pretty good bright spot. But and tomorrow you get a right-handed pitcher, obviously, in Nick Martinez. So you need to capitalize and take advantage. And am I curious about what's going on here with Xander Bogaerts? I am. Obviously, he sat today, suffered that shoulder, whatever it was, injury. I don't know the extent of it, if it's going to be, a dislocation or I have no idea, right? Inflammation, if they're waiting to see what happens, if swelling dies down or if it's something beyond that. But, it's something to keep an eye on as well. I think at some point you need to determine whether Bogaerts is going to go on the IL or not. Because, okay, you don't play for a day or two, okay, and eventually they would have to backdate him to put him on the IL. I don't know if that's tomorrow or the day after that they'd have to backdate it and make a decision whether or not he's going on the IL. But I would think a decision would be coming on Bogaerts before they get home. That's kind of my guess. Like, if he's not going to play Wednesday and Thursday, wouldn't you maybe make a decision on Bogaerts on Wednesday or Thursday? We'll see. But that's one of those, like, overriding storylines that's going to play out here over the next couple of days potentially. Like, there's a big difference here between him being day-to-day and him going on the IL. And there's a big difference between going on the IL and then it potentially being more than just like a 10-day IL stint. Now, we talked about this yesterday as well. He's not the end-all be-all, unfortunately, but I still think that getting to, I think, for you to reach max potential and reach your ceiling, you're going to need Bogaerts, right? You can't just say, well, they got Luis Ariz and they have Donovan Solano and they have enough pieces. They have Tyler Wade. They don't even need Xander Bogaerts. Is that really the case? They don't need him. Like, they truly don't need Xander Bogaerts the rest of the year, and they could still reach the goals that we have all set for this team. They can get to the postseason. They can have success there. And I don't know if he's the player that's capable of helping them reach those goals either. But I saw it with my own two eyes last April. He was really good. Last September, when it doesn't matter or it didn't matter, he was obviously really good. Now, we haven't seen that player as of yet. The most disappointing / frustrating part of what happened with the injury, and injuries happen, is that he actually was playing better. And I think if you have been watching, and you had been watching over the last handful of games, Atlanta specifically, maybe even going back to that Rockies series, like, he was hitting. And he was hitting for a little bit of power. And I think he had a couple of home runs in that 6 or 7 game stretch. And I think he had a 900 plus OPS over 6 or 7 games. Like, that's the frustrating part, that we were waiting for him to put together 10 good games in a row. Like, we waited all year. And now is it back to square one? And is it something he's going to have to deal with when he does return, whether it's day to day or an IL stint? And is he capable of bouncing back from it and not skipping a beat where he had been over the previous week, or is he going to revert back to a 500 OPS player that has switched positions, that is now in the second half of his career? So again, this isn't like losing. It's funny to say this. This isn't like losing Jurickson Profar because of what Profar has meant to this team this year. It's not like losing Manny Machado, for example. You just can't. And it's not like losing Fernando Tatis Jr., right? You just can't. But I still think how can we say it's not sizable, right? How can we say it's not sizable losing Xander Bogaerts? I don't think it's sizable if it's a day or 2 or 3, or even if it's 10 days. Okay, right? We're going to keep moving on. They'll be fine, right? We all have faith in that. But if 10 days turns into something longer, and I have no idea. You see shoulder injuries, and some of them are day to day because it's like a sublex, right? In and out. Others are dislocations. Other are additional. I don't know, right? Trevor Story is going to miss the rest of the year with a shoulder injury. So, it runs the full gamut injuries, obviously, in Major League Baseball. But it's just kind of disappointing because he was starting to play better. And I thought the play he made defensively, by the way, may have truly saved the game for the Padres yesterday, because he makes this diving play and keeps the ball in the infield. A run scores. But if he doesn't glove the ball, if it goes off his glove or under it and into right center field, another run scores. It would have been 6-0. And what would that have meant? I know they end up scoring 6 runs in the game and winning 6-5, but if a 6th run scores in that spot, do the Padres ever get even? And even if they do get even, do they win the game? We'll never really know. So I thought it was like in the moment, it's not a game-saving play, but you look back on it with the benefit of like hindsight, and it was a pretty important moment, truthfully, in the game. So it's something to consider and keep our eye on, obviously, moving forward for the Padres. Like, when will we see Xander Bogaerts next? Maybe it's tomorrow. I have no idea. I think Schilt told the media before the games, we played it on John and Jim. He's like, not really an update from yesterday. We have some tests he probably needs to go through, and we kind of need to see where he is in terms of like mobility and like swelling and feel. So that to me didn't sound like he was like a day away. But then again, these are professional athletes, and they've got some of the best training staffs in the world, and they've got resources available to them that you and I don't have. So maybe it is going to be something that can be dealt with in a shorter period of time than we thought initially. But I'm not holding my breath, I guess, is my point. I'm not going to hold my breath that he's going to play tomorrow. And again, it's not that you have to have him tomorrow, but I don't know. It's just a backdrop, right? And you're also playing a man down. If you don't put him on, and they may not for this road trip, you got 2 days left, right? You're back home in 36 hours, whatever it is. So you're playing a man down, which I never love. So I think you got to make a determination at some point, whether it's Wednesday or Thursday. You need to make a determination. Is he going on or not? And clearly, if he needs to go on, he's going to be on by the Yankee series, or he's going to be playing in the Yankee series. I don't think you just carry a player and don't, Manny Machado, that happened a couple of years ago. They carried him. He didn't want to go on the IL. They played a man down. It was kind of ridiculous. It was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, whatever it was. They played a man down without putting him on the IL. I don't see a reason to do that with someone like Xander Bogaerts, the way he's played so far this year. All right, going to get back to the chat in a moment. Guys, I need to tell you about our partner on the wrap-up show, Underdog Fantasy. Click the link in the description down below. Use promo code PODSWRAP, PADSWRAP, and get a free special pick and a $250 first-time deposit offer with a 50% deposit match. So again, click the link in the description down below. It's never been easier or simpler. It's so easy. And you get a 50% deposit match up to $250 plus a free special pick. Click that link in the description down below. Use promo code PODSWRAP, PADSWRAP. A lot of you guys have been playing for a long, long time. Some of you maybe are just hearing about it right now. The best and easiest place to play fantasy sports is Underdog Fantasy. I had a winner here today. Jim's always making fun of me because I'm typically angling like smaller plays, $40 here in a win, $30 here, $50 here in a win. Jim tries to play for $400 and then, doesn't really win as much as I've been winning, truthfully. So I had a win today. I forgot what it was. It had to do with the 2 starters. It was Abbott, lower than 5.5 hits, and it was Musgrove. I had some high-end strikeout number where you had to be under like 6.5 or 7.5 strikeouts. And of course, he only went 3 innings. And I hit on, I don't know, $35 or $40. But again, you get the free special pick. You get the up to $250 in bonus cash with the 50% deposit match. So use promo code PODSWRAP, that's PADSWRAP, by clicking the link in the description down below at underdogfantasy.com. What else, guys? I mean, what else are we missing on? It's hard for me to keep up with the chat because, well, I'm doing a solo show, so I can't read the chat as I do the show. Trying to think just out of this game. Let me just pull up a box score. I mean, we watched this entire thing in the studio. Obviously, I didn't have the sound on because I was doing a show at the exact same time. I'm just trying to think if there's any other like takeaway here. Like even I'll give you a takeaway. So like the headline in the UT says tired Padres left without an answer for Reds, fall to another sub 500 team. I would. Again, I told you earlier, the reason that I think it's excusable is that a getaway day split doubleheader, with, of course, with travel, because a getaway day is a lot. I mean, 3 games in 30, 32 hours, whatever, is a lot. But tired Padres, I mean, You played at 6:40 local time. That Padres Braves game the night before started at 6:20. I don't know what time that game ended. That second game, it wasn't a long game, right? It was a shutout. So let's say it was 2:40. So that game ended at 9 o'clock local, right? So you're airborne 2 hours later at 11. You're going from Atlanta to Cincinnati. It's not that far, is it? An hour, 90 minutes. So I mean, I think you're in Cincinnati by midnight, 1 a.m., something like that. That's not crazy by baseball travel standards. Now they've loosened things up. There's a lot more day games. There's a lot less overnight travel, but this is a part of it. I mean, this is just a part of it. Now, 2 games the day before is a lot, but this is the business. So I push back a little bit at tired Padres. Like, did they lose the game because they were tired? Because that doesn't really credit Andrew Abbott, and also doesn't. I mean, did they play sloppy defensively because they were tired? Did Campusano not hold on to a ball to plate because he was tired? Did Jake Cronenworth not make a rangy play because he was tired? Like, I didn't see it like that. Offensively, they cannot hit left-handed pitching right now. And then they didn't capitalize against that bad bullpen when they had chances in both the 8th and 9th inning. But I can't excuse, quote unquote, being tired to having one at bat with men in scoring position. Now, there's a quote from Fernando Tatis Jr. He says, "We just had a long day, quick turnaround. Our bodies were not where we expected, but it's part of it, and we need to take care of it." So you're talking about athletes in, theoretically, ideal physical condition. I know you're in the middle of the season right now. And it is a long day. Split doubleheaders are long days with getaway. It's a long day. It's true. Having called games and traveled, it's long. There are days you're tired. I mean, they're human beings. So I think some of it is reasonable. But truth be told, other teams deal with it over the course of 162. Teams will have difficult travel days or have to play doubleheaders, deal with rain delays, deal with extra inning games. Like, this is all a part of it. This is all a part of it. Tatis later went on to say that he's going to go to the hotel and get some sleep, just bounce tomorrow and get back in the jungle with this group. So we'll see how they respond. There was an adage when I worked in minor league baseball. It wasn't the day after long travel that was the toughest day. It was the next day. So, like, oftentimes you had the tough travel and the limited sleep, you'd actually play all right. You were more on adrenaline and fumes. It was that second day when it was harder to catch up. So hopefully that's not the case with the Padres tomorrow. And again, that's just complete subjective adage BS, but that's what, they would say a lot in professional baseball. So again, I'm not going to discount it. I'm also not going to say that the season, is a failure because they lost one game here today to the Cincinnati Reds. But I think to make this the road trip you were hoping it to be, you got to win the next 2 games, because otherwise it feels like you're giving something back. Sure, you get one of the next 2 and you'd have a 4-3 trip. That's not bad through Atlanta overall. Like, in the grand scheme, a 4-3 trip through Atlanta with 4 of the games in Atlanta isn't bad. But at what point is this team going to get not just over 500, but well over? Like, is that coming with this team? We didn't see it last year. I didn't know if they'd get to the 500 last year. I think I'd written it off by September 1st. They were essentially out of it by September 1st. 10 games under 500. Manny Machado, it looked like, might be going on the IL, having season-ending surgery at one point last September. And then when things were basically determined and decided, they did play better baseball. And unfortunately, it was well too late, probably truthfully a month too late, because they played terribly in August. So is this team going to be different? That's one of our pleas for the year. Is this team going to be different than 2023? And while sometimes with my own 2 eyes, they feel different, the big innings, the come from behind wins, adding Dylan Cease, Luis Arraez, the dynamic new manager. All right, there's differences, a lot of them. Obviously, unfortunately, an ownership change because of the untimely passing of Peter Seidler. I mean, there are clear, discernible, real differences. But unfortunately, if we're going to be honest, there's similarities. They're 25 and 26. And I don't know what the team was a year ago through 51, but probably not a game worse than that. Not more than a game worse, 24 and 27, 25 and 26. So at some point, it's going to be based on wins and losses. Like Mike Schultz said after did they get swept by the Phillies earlier this year or lose 3 out of 4, whatever it was at Petco? He said, this past weekend, we put on a defensive clinic, business of winning. And then against the Rockies, I take exception to getting outplayed. It's a business of winning. You're 25 and 26. There's a lot of things I like. I don't like the record. And I don't know the further you go along when they're going to go 7-1 over an 8-game stretch. I thought maybe it was now. Before game 2 in Atlanta, they were 11-6 over 17. That's good baseball. 5 games over 500. That's a nice little run. And then they give 2 back here the last couple of days, and now they're 11-8 over the last 19 games, and it doesn't sound nearly as appealing. So is this team going to have the 7-1 stretch, a 12-2 stretch, a 15-5 stretch in them? That's what we're waiting on. That's what we're hoping for. That's what is needed, like badly needed this summer. Hopefully coming to a ballpark near us. And I don't know if it's going to be Petco, because they're one of the worst teams in baseball at home at 10-16. Are we asking for too much? That 15-5, 20-game stretch? The answer may be yes. I mean, the thing is, once you do something like that, the conversation changes. It's less about can they get in? How much of a grind is this going to be? It opens up a world of different possibilities. Are you going to be the first wild card? Are you going to be the second? Is the division still in play? How much further ahead are the Dodgers than the Padres? I mean, even right now, I mean, yeah, again, is it impossible to envision? Is it hard to envision the Padres hanging around the division? Yeah, obviously. It's going to be very hard to envision that. Right now, they're, 8 games back. At some point, you're going to get to a number like it's already impossible. I don't know if it's 8. 10 would be. There's no scenario, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. There's no scenario where you get 10 games back in the division and you somehow get back into it. But a 15-5 would help, is my point. Like, are they built to have a 15-5 in them? And if they do, then maybe they actually can make up 2, 3, 4 games over a 20-game stretch in the division and turn an 8-game deficit into, 4, 5, or 6. Again, I'm not holding my breath for that. I'm less concerned about the division. You guys know me. I'm not overly concerned about the division. I am concerned about them creating some distance from 500 at some point. And hopefully we're not waiting on that until September 15th, where they basically got to go 10-4 or something like that to get in, or, 8-4 in their last 12 games to get in. So, I think there's still plenty of time. I'm not yet concerned that they're not capable of being a team that can go 7-1 over an 8-game stretch, or 12-4 over a 16-game stretch. I just need to see it with my own 2 eyes. I'm seeing some good, and then every time I see something really good, it's like, we can't have nice things, right? Like, woe is me. Oh, here's an injury. Oh, here's a series loss to the Rockies. Oh, here's a giveaway game against the Cincinnati Reds. So room for improvement is what I would say at 25-26. I also want to thank our partner, longtime partner on the wrap-up show, our friends at Ora, ORA.organic. Maybe you want to get healthier. I think we all probably do. They have plant-based nutritional products for you, like the probiotic I take every single day for digestion. It's an amazing, amazing product. So if you haven't tried it as of yet, click the link in the description down below. They have pre-workout supplements. They have proteins for after workouts. They have omega-3 oils, which is a fish oil without the fish oil, but has the same health benefits, the omega-3s. They have sleep pills and immunity pills. Like I always say, something for everyone. They have much, much more. Free shipping offer going on right now. Their offices are in San Diego. Their co-founder, Will's a San Diegan and a huge Padres fan and a longtime supporter of the channel. So if you support our channel, if you want to get healthier, please support Ora, ORA.organic, or click the link in the description down below. In addition to that, please support all of our partners here on the wrap-up show. What else, guys? Is there anything else you want me to hit on over the last handful of minutes? I think that, again, I'm not overly concerned with the offense, but I am overly concerned maybe with the offense against left-handed pitching. I'm not overly concerned with Joe Musgrove, but I am concerned with Joe Musgrove. Those are the primary takeaways today. Those are the primary takeaways for me, really, to be honest with you. And we'll say it until we're blue in the face. Toddy, Manny, right now with Bogey on the IL. We're looking at you, Fernando Tatis Jr. We're looking at you, Manny Machado, right? And we're asking you to at some point do more of the heavy lifting, I guess is what we're saying. Because like Luis Ariz comes here, doesn't skip a beat. I think he's had, 6 consecutive 2-hit games or something crazy like that. What's he hitting with the Padres? What is Luis Ariz hitting? Can someone put in the chat? 360? Something like that. The guy's been great. He's always on base. He's doing his job. We just need the guys to do their jobs. Ariz's job is to get on base with singles. Manny's job is to drive them in. Manny's job is to hit for power. Fernando's job is to hit for power. Okay. So Arise is doing his part. Jake Cronenworth, by and large, is doing his part. Jurickson Profar is doing his part. Top 5 hitter in the National League, arguably, right now. But everyone's got to play a role. Kim, Toddy, Manny, right? They all have to do a role. And the longer you hover around 500 or dip a game or two under it, the more the attention is going to be centered on Machado and Tatis. Moises, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat, guys. If you're here, please subscribe. Year-on content for Padres fans, the home of real Padres talk. Thank you for the super chats and the super thanks. You can click the $ below the chat box. Moises says, how many more moves does it take a GM to create a winner in 10 years? We're insane for expecting different results. Well, this is a very good question that probably deserves a pretty long-winded answer. I personally like the moves that AJ Preller has made over really a period of time. I'm not saying all moves, but I like blockbuster moves. I like being the center of attention. I like how he's drawn eyeballs to San Diego baseball, right? Where you wouldn't necessarily think about that 25 years ago in terms of like national relevancy. I mean, yeah, you would have in like the late 90s, but like the 2000s, you wouldn't necessarily think about it. So Preller has done some of what I think fans are asking him to do, and he's acquired shiny objects, which I think most people do like. The issue still remains. The issue still remains putting together the right roster, the right combination of players. It's like a combination of a lock. You got to make it all work, right? You can't have 3 of the 4 correct on the lock. You need to have all 4. And this doesn't seem to me to be a team that's too star-laden or top-heavy. It doesn't. I like some of the pieces right now in the back end of the bullpen. Robert Suarez, Jeremiah Estrada, Matsui. Like, there's some stuff to like there. I kind of like their bench. I like the Donovan Solanos. I like Tyler Wade. This isn't an issue of being too top heavy. The issue now is you're not getting production out of the top heaviness from your team. Machado, Tatis, Bogey, Musgrove, unfortunately, because of injury, right? So the issue is of your, $150, $175 million payroll, a good bulk of the dollars are not producing the way you were expecting them to produce. But your point is a valid one. It like I say with Shilton, like I say with professional sports, it's a business of winning. And I can like Preller from an entertainment value. I can like him from a shiny object. I can like him from like a sports talk host perspective, because I think he always keeps it interesting and exciting and, keeps this team relevant. And, there's polarizing elements to the Padres, a lot of which are because of AJ Preller. With all that being said, I don't think he keeps his job just based on that. I think he either keeps his job or loses his job based on his ability to win. And unfortunately, they haven't won at a high enough level as of yet. And it's still possible, fortunately, in 2024. If it doesn't work out well in 2024, I don't know what his future holds. If they do make the postseason in 2024, I know what his future holds. I know what his future holds, which is he'll be back, obviously. But yeah, I mean, some of these contracts look bad. I mean, there's no question about it. Some of the trades, I think, also have looked bad. I think some of them look really good. Dylan Cease, I think what Padre fan would tell you that it's not a good trade today. He hasn't been perfect, but I think it's a pretty good trade. I think it gives the team a chance of maybe making the postseason that they didn't have without him. And then Luis Arise, a guy that's getting on base at a high clip and, hitting 350 plus in a Padres uniform. I think those are 2 pretty pivotal acquisitions, but will it be enough? To your point, I mean, how many moves does it take to make the right move to catapult this team over the top? Had success in 2020, short sample size. Had an amazing first half in 2021, wheels fell off. Had an amazing start in 2022, and then kind of fizzled out for the rest of the regular season. Made the run, obviously, in the postseason, and then last year was just this severe disappointment. So you're right. It hasn't been the right combination for a full 162 and postseason for a long time. There's been some things in there, and you cannot discount 2022. That's the one thing I always push back on. I mean, this is not a franchise that has had this long history of winning. It's not like you're falling out of bed every single 3 years in the National League Championship Series. They got 3 of them since '69, 3 of them, and 0 of them since '98 other than 2022. So he should get credit for it. If we're going to blame in other areas, which is completely fair, he should get credit, and real credit, for 2022, because 2022 is one of the more significant seasons in the history of the franchise. Not the best, but one of the better seasons in the history of the franchise. And he was the GM for that year. Has there been disappointment that surrounded it? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. JD Gotcha, thank you. Says Chris Matt now a free agent after the Dodgers DFA'd him. I didn't realize that. I don't know if the Padres really have a need at this point, but old friend, never rule out the possibility. Maybe you plug him in at AAA, add some depth, um, which is something the Padres I think have done pretty good job of in terms of like increasing their depth right now. The additions of like a Donovan Solano, David Peralta. I think it's something that's actually benefited them. So maybe that's a possibility. I appreciate it, JD Gotcha. Thanks for making me aware. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for tonight. Do plan to be back here tomorrow night following game 2 of this series. Again, old friend Nick Martinez, Michael King, Padres needing a game to have a chance to win the series. And then there'd be a rubber match Thursday morning before they come back home. And the Yankees, of course, will be here. Juan Soto and all the intrigue and excitement. Padres and Yankees, Petco Park Friday. I'll actually be broadcasting downtown on Friday. John and Jim from the Naughty Barrel from 3 to 6 tomorrow. I'll have you covered as well, leading you up to Padres and Reds. So please join me on San Diego Sports 760 and John and Jim tomorrow at 3, and then again tomorrow night on the wrap-up show. Like I always say, seriously, maybe it's your first time here. Maybe you just haven't subscribed for whatever reason. If you wouldn't mind doing it, we truly appreciate it. We have year-round content for Padres fans, the home of real Padres talk. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I would appreciate it. Smash the like button if you wouldn't mind. You can follow me on X at John Schaefer, JONSCHAEFFER. Thank you for the super thanks if you are here on replay, and thank you for your support, your longtime support of our partners, whether it's Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance, our brand new partner, Finn Lee. Again, you can scan the QR code on the screen right now for Underdog Fantasy and get a 50% deposit match up to $250 plus a free special pick if you use promo code PODSWRAP. That's PADS. WRAP. And again, if you're looking to get healthier, make sure to check out our friends at Aura. That is ORA.organic. All right, guys. My name is John Schaefer, as you know, and I'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. on John and Jim, and then back tomorrow night right here on the wrap-up show. Appreciate you guys hanging out, and we'll see you tomorrow. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.